Hey! Sorry. Okay. So, my boy. No. Alright. So the discussion questions, the first one I'm seeing is what the root problems Barbara Norris is facing. Okay, 1 second. I'll come back in a second. My dog thinks someone's trying to. Sorry. Okay. So I'm trying to pull up my Word document because that first question was hardest for me because the second one, it was how well Barbara Norris has done in her first month as a nurse manager. I skipped the second one real quick because I don't think we can really judge her too hard for that first month because she was kind of like just thrown into the opportunity, like not thrown into it, she applied for it, but like there are so many issues to begin with that you can't just overnight.
Right.
It was just hard for me to try and like assess her performance as her, like I don't think she did a bad job. I think she just did a bad position that they're all in. So what did you guys put?
No, I think the same thing. I think like this question, it's trying to get us to judge her super quickly, and it's something we can't really do. She was thrown into a pretty crappy situation at her job, and it seems like she's trying to do what she can to kind of get over it and make things better. So I think she's been doing great, but you know, she can always do better. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah, I agree with you too. And also, I think that she's going towards the right path because she started, starting those meetings, asking questions, trying to find out what is the problem, the root problem within the group, in the nurses. So she's trying to, I believe she's trying to figure out how to fix the problem. She herself is working extra hours, which is, sometimes extenuous for someone. You start in a position and working extra hours, neglecting probably your family, because if you read or remember that she said that she has worked like, I don't know how many hours, started at 7 in the morning and it's like probably 8, 9 at night, and she's still there working. So it's like she's doing her best. She's trying hard to fix the problem. She's trying to know her team. She's trying to help them, to overcome all the situation they have in. So I think she's doing great.
Yeah, there wasn't anything necessarily bad that I thought she was doing. Like there wasn't anything she was doing wrong that I saw in the case study. But I mean, she's just getting started. So then back to that first question of what the root problems Barbara is facing. There are a lot that's wrong with this. I used to work not in a hospital, but in a nursing home. So this was like all very, I don't know, relatable. There's just so many things, and it's not her fault. It's kind of like just the overhead kind of thing. I like that she didn't complain, like really ever. She was just overwhelmed, and she never put the blame on anyone else, even though I felt like it was never on her. But like the main problems really are, I put like the biggest problem for me was how did they say it? They said like a freeze on hiring.
Right.
Hiring. for you guys?
I think one of the biggest or main problems that she kind of endured was like, when I said her predecessor didn't really take accurate notes of like their annual review and things like that, that kind of set her up for failure. And all these other nurses know it, like they want that to be better, but at that point in time, there's nothing that she can really do about what happened in the past. And I think that kind of ticked off all the nurses, because they're like, well, where's all other annual reviews? And the last manager didn't do anything, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Hi, Erin.
But as I mentioned before, she's trying to her best. So she's trying to know what's the problem is right now. And also what I wrote on my, on the writing, I said that she should plan something like where all the employees write their own reviews. They set the goals, they work towards their goal, and based on that, everyone gets their merit rates according to their performance.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree. It's a really good point.
And a lot of people have been there longer too, and yeah, that's interesting. So for what changes she is trying to make and why, I thought it was cool that she had kind of an off-site meeting, and everyone just towards the end just became super open and things like that. I put, this kind of leads to the next question, but I put that maybe she could meet like one-on-one with people that are having certain problems. Like I think her name was Megan. She was new and she was just like said she was just trying to work really hard, but was still asking questions. And these two nurses were talking about her. So I don't know if that would make it worse or not to like meet with the three of them and address the situation or what, but something like that, more try to personalize more each individual need. But what do you guys think for changes she's trying to make?
I also think she did such a great job with that offsite. I think she needs to do more of like a nurse R&R type of thing, or like trust building activity outside of work. I don't think any of these nurses really know each other outside of work.
Yeah.
And I think if they actually got to do that, then they would have a lot better working relationship every day that they go on.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because they're also stressed and short of people at work. So.
So if they got just away from that, I think they'd be a little bit better off.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that.
I agree too with that, and also I make a comment like the in my writing I says that if she set up training the seasoned nurses train the new nurses and set up and show the settings of the organization, the expectation, and they get to know each other like that way. If each of the seasoned nurses rotate with the new nurses, they will know better each other. They will know what to expect from each other. And also, as forgot your name, I'm tired today. But you mentioned something like get out and in outside work setting and know each other. It also works and also will help them to know each other.
Yeah, I agree with that. The switching off is a good idea too, because like you mentioned, there's so many people that have been there for so long. There's also quite a few new people. Sometimes, like, what's that saying? Like, old dogs can't learn new tricks. Sometimes people that have been there for a long time doing things a certain way, they don't want to be with the new people or they don't want to try new things. So yeah, that's a really good point. And I agree with that too. When I worked at a nursing home in they just threw me in with no training, which was really, it was terrifying because you're supposed to care for these people and work with everyone, and you don't know each person's situation or how this organization does things. Like no certain organization does things the same way, like the hospital, for example. So, anything else for the changes that she's trying to make? Okay. What are 3 obstacles affecting change that she should anticipate, and how should she address them? Kind of touched on that a little bit.
I think one of the biggest obstacles that she faces is working with kind of those veteran nurses that have been there for so long and they've been very stuck in their ways. Like I remember reading there was one that like she doesn't care about all the new technology that's coming out. All she wants to do is help her patients and save lives. She could care less about all the other stuff that's coming out and what she has to study to do on her own time, basically. So I think that's going to be one of her bigger challenges because, you know, as a manager and as we're like progressing through this world, she needs to be looking for those new opportunities for things that are going to make her patients' lives easier and her nurses' lives easier. But there's always going to be that person or two that doesn't want to do any of that because they're so stuck in their ways. So she has to like kind of figure out like how to keep everybody happy, but also while like throwing her department into the future, essentially.
Yeah,
Agree
definitely.
with you too, Matthew. No, so I think about the probably Sally that you work with in a nursing home or a nursing setting, so you will know that keeping with the technologies will provide better service. Probably if Ms. Norris establish training, you know, for all nurses, they go out and train for a time and come back and, you know, and just keep training, keep up to date with the technologies, with new materials and all that. That will help a lot also. If she gets that message to the seasoned nurses, that will, you know, probably have them understand the importance or keep up with technologies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that'll help them all be on the same page too, because so for the 3 biggest obstacles, what I wrote was 1, 2, and 3 were the hiring freeze because they're so short staffed. But the second was she had said our culture does not value collaboration and teamwork. So with what you guys were just kind of saying, keeping up with like the technologies and stuff, if you're all on the same page, you're better able to work as a team. I mean, you can't work alone in an environment like that because it's just such a tasking job. And if they're all on the same page, and yeah, like what you mentioned about the training, if they had like monthly or weekly, something like that, training that was mandatory, that way they could all be educated properly.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of what you said, Talia, is that they don't have their goals really set clear. Like each one of the people had something that they thought was more important, whether that was learning or doing what they were used to. So in those meetings, I think establishing goals will be challenging for her as well, but very beneficial if she can do it. They're all on the same page, like you said.
Yeah, definitely. So any advice? Oh, advise an action plan for Norris. What are the specifics of your plan? I put like so many different things, like not a step-by-step plan necessarily, but just different things that could be implemented. One with teamwork, which I mean, I just talked about, was the meetings. And then 2, this might be like, I don't know, dumb, but you have like a coworker, like a gratitude board is what we called it. You could write a note like, thank you to this nurse because they helped me with this, and you put it up on like the wall. So you could just really be, because a big thing that was lacking, oh, I forgot to say this, was the lack of like reward, whether that was just like verbal like acknowledgement. But I think having like a board where everyone could show gratitude for everyone would be really uplifting and positive, so everyone could feel like they belong there. That was one thing I thought we could implement.
I like it.
Okay.
What specifics did you guys have for plan?
I think I mentioned mine already. About setting goals. The same employee working on the evaluation itself. So my work setting is like that. I set my goals for the year. I work towards that goal, and at the end of the year, so I sit with my supervisor. We go through that, and based on that, or based on what I work on, I get my increase, and it works for me. You know, it works for the organization I work for. So I suggest one of the things that she can do, Norris can do.
Yeah. There was, I was trying to look, I can't remember because there was a nurse, was it Jennifer, that was constantly taking classes outside. I can't find her name, but outside of work, and she was trying to better familiarize herself with just the updated technology, skills, things like that. And she just feels like she wasn't ever recognized for that. So yeah, kind of what you're saying. Maybe also trying to create a more open environment, because it really doesn't sound like the last manager boss really did much in that aspect.
Mhm.
So like a more open communicative system where I don't know, people could say how they feel and what they're working on. And I think that kind of goes along with what Matthew was saying at the beginning of this, having like the activities outside of work, because then you get to know, oh, she's taking additional classes. I'd like to do that too. Or you really grow appreciation for that person and more respect, even because you know more about their lives outside of work. So,
Mhm.
um, okay, so those were all the questions, and then it talks about it has like, I don't know if you guys have this pulled up, but it says consider the following information to help lead the activity. So I'll just read it. It says the drive to acquire. Humans have a fundamental need to seek and acquire objects and experiences they value. Given the general scarcity of desired objects and experiences, the drive draws humans into competition with one another. So how well does the GSU reward system fulfill the drive to achieve and acquire? I just thought of something we could do for this one. I didn't write it down, but I just thought of it. You could do like an employee of the month type thing
Mhm.
for a reward system, because that is always like something people talk about. It's like, oh, I was an employee of the month, and you feel recognized. And I think
Hmm.
it's definitely lacking in that department. And then it said at the end that drives humans into a competition with one another, which you're supposed to work as a team, but you just want to keep growing and keep like performing your best. I think that could be really good. What do you guys think for a reward system?
I think it's important to offer each one of those driving factors that the article mentioned, but to do so in a manner that doesn't specifically pit people against other people. Like employee of the month is good, but it's like to make sure that you're not going to have them competing with each other or forming groups like the oldies versus the newbies,
Right.
trying to see who can outperform each other, because that would create an even more toxic environment. But I think satisfying like the drive the bond and the other things that I mentioned, like to acquire knowledge, recognition. I think that's important to offer each one of those revenues because each person will be different, but specifically not pitting each other against one another, especially for a nursing environment. I feel like we don't want people fighting over who gets to wrap who up.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That just led me to think of, because they talked about what a it's like a CNA. That's what I was, but they called it something different in the case study. They had CNAs and RNs, and it just kind of said that they were all. It's like the GSU had the lowest happiness levels or something like that. Sorry, I read it at the beginning of the week. It was like the lowest happiness levels. So kind of what you're saying, like about not trying to, pit each other against each other and work as a team, but also like try to compete with yourself kind of thing. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The next one said the drive to bond. Humans have a fundamental emotional need to seek and develop mutual social commitments. The drive draws humans into collaboration with one another. How well does the GSU's culture fulfill the drive to belong and bond? Well,
It doesn't.
I like, again, what you said, Matthew, at the beginning about things outside of work. You could do like social gatherings, or I think you even mentioned like team building exercises, because there is no bond and no one wants to collaborate with each other, and that's why they're
Right.
poorly, because that's not an environment in which you can
Mhm.
work alone.
Agreed.
The drive to comprehend. Humans have a fundamental emotional need to develop understandings of their environments and themselves. The drive draws humans into collecting information, building new knowledge, exploring new possibilities, and finding meaning in their activities in life. How well does GSU's job design fulfill the drive to challenge and comprehend? Kind of see, like, this is kind of repetitive because it's the same issues, the same things that need to be fixed. But I think how we talked about having like weekly or monthly meetings, that's mandatory for all, like, the CNAs, all the RNs, everyone on the GSU floor, I think including floaters, because they mentioned that if they don't have enough nurses, they'll have someone like that's floating just come, and they don't know, I don't know how things work in the GSU. If they had those meetings and they had the RNs or the CNAs lead the meeting. So you kind of like what we're doing with this class. Each week you have a different person lead, to hold like accountability, and then also educate people and stuff with people, and bonding, and help with people's education as well if you're learning from the people that you're working with.
Mhm.
What do you guys think? Drive, challenge, and to comprehend is what it's asking.
I think it's just hard because I don't think like half these people really understand what's even going on there half the time. So they don't care what anyone else does. They don't care what anyone else thinks. They don't care what they're told. So, it's hard for them to find that fundamental emotional need, to understand, to build new knowledge, to explore these new possibilities, and find this meaning in their life. Like, they know that they want to be a nurse, but it kind of just stops right there. So, I mean, I think like the job is there to help them drive the challenge and to comprehend everything that's going on, but they just don't want it. They've been stuck in such a bad place as a unit for such a long time. They think there's no turning back, and they shouldn't care, in my opinion.
So the challenge is how you motivate those people. How can we motivate them? How can we make them feel part of the organization? How can we make them feel valuable? Their opinion counts. How can we do that? So it's a challenge, and I believe it's know each one personally. As a manager, she will have to meet one-on-one, and probably in the job setting, outside job setting, and like that, just to know each individual, to know their aspiration, to know their goals, and I think that will help a little bit.
Definitely. I like that one-on-one. Also, with those meetings that we're constantly having, I think it would be cool if, like, at the beginning, Barbara shared like an inspirational quote, or there's a bunch of different videos about nurses and things like that, just to kind of remind everyone like what, like the bigger picture, like they're there to help people to take care of their patients. You know, all the distractions and the drama that is really weighing them down. So if they could also like talk about like the patients and like discuss how they can better help them, because that's what brings them all together, is like they're all there to care for and help make their patients lives and experiences better in the hospital. So if they just like we would, each month we would talk about like patients that we might be noticing that like are struggling, or like patients that, I don't know, just different things. And that, I think that would make it more personable, and they could really share insight with each other, which I think could kind of help them bond as well. But the last one on here, about the drive, is the drive to defend. Humans have a fundamental emotional drive to defend our accomplishments and fulfilling our other three drives. When such accomplishments are threatened, humans experience fear or anger and respond by flight or fight. How well does the GSU's performance management system fulfill the drive to depend and defend? Sound like there was quite a great management system before. So as far as like being dependable, and I would say you couldn't really depend on management before, because I mean, they weren't hiring enough staff, and the overtime limit was tasking for them. Um, I think Barbara is really trying to turn that around. And I think she was off to a good start, because the first month she was there, she already held a meeting. And I think she to go from, I don't know what it was before, to starting to do like meetings and things like that. I think it'll make it like their management system have a better like drive to defend performance. I don't know. What do you guys think about like their management system?
I'm pretty much right there with you. Like, it's just, for lack of a better term, it sucks.
Yeah.
You know, these people, they need a well functioning manager that actually cares about them and cares about what they're doing, and they didn't really have that before. But Barbara's trying to come in and make sure that they do have that.
I agree. I agree with that. And also, I believe one of the things that could on that process is like include the nurses, at least the oldest nurses in the process of hiring the nurses, so everything is transparent. You know, they are included. They feel part of that the organization. They're, I don't know. I think it's if working transparency and including them in whatever decision she will take. You know, even though making them feel that their opinions count. Is what I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with that, they want us to create an action plan. So the case that I started with Barbara, she, like Veronica mentioned, she was working from 6:30 in the morning until it was like 10 at night, which is crazy. So and she's all stressed out. So basically, an action plan from where she go from there. Like she had just had a meeting and all this stuff. I don't know. Oh, I actually was going to mention something. At the end of that meeting, she um, mentioned she was going to try to get another nurse or the secretarial assistant. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of confused by that, because I thought they weren't allowed to get more people. Was she just saying that she is going to ask to work and try to get another person? Because that would affect the action plan. But, do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I think I do, but you know what she's trying to do is like include them. That's what I mentioned before. Like include them in the process of hiring.
Oh, okay.
Know that if something is going on, if the process start, they knew that this will happen. So that thing is happening, you know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true. Um, so action plan wise, we've basically really talked a lot about like having more meetings, being more one-on-one, and trying to address issues.
And really like gaining their trust.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Because yeah, they're long hours and they're on a short staff system right now. So really, just having an open and inclusive staff will really make a difference. And then
Hmm.
try those reward systems. I think if they implement that, I think that would give people something to look forward to. It sounds like their budget is really tight, but the budget at our nursing home was tight. And for like the employee of the month or whatever, we were able to do it was like $100 and like a really good parking spot or something like that that like gives people something to look forward to. And I think if they do that, that's really inclusive, but because that includes like all the staff, like the RNs, the LPNs, CNAs, like just like it won't, what Matthew said, pit people against each other. Um, I don't know. What else do you guys think for our action plan?
I think that's pretty solid. Not even gonna lie.
We've talked about a lot.
Yeah, we did. We pretty much hit on everything like what we think she should do.
Yeah.
So she just needs to understand more about their root problems, which she has already started doing, and just kind of nitpicking at those one by one, all while kind of building everyone's trust. And I think as she starts to like fix those certain things, like the nurses will finally understand, like, oh, this person actually cares about what we're doing. She's trying to make things better.
Right. And
Then
so
they'll kind of start getting a little bit of a better attitude.
yeah, definitely. So I think maybe if she were to assign a meeting like that next week or as soon as she could and try and involve as much staff as possible, um, I would say like that they have this meeting and she kind of announces these changes and then maybe does like an anonymous like box where if anyone has anything else they'd like to request instead of like slamming people because the last meeting it seemed to be it was good because it brought a lot of things to her attention, but it seemed to be kind of like a little bit like a bashing session.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just like, okay, how am I going to end this positively? So maybe instead of trying to point out problems, because everybody knows there are problems and what they are, if she told them about like the employee of the month, like all the new things they're implementing, and then did like a suggestion box that was anonymous. I don't know, she could let everybody know about these changes and that they're going to continue to make changes. Yeah, like you said, hopefully people's attitudes will be better and they'll be more excited for work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was all of the questions. It just says use the last like 20 minutes to discuss her any to resolve the issues and create an action plan. But we've got a pretty solid action plan.
Yeah, I think we were pretty good.
Yeah. So, are you guys okay with ending a little early, or do you want to keep talking about it?
I'm good.
Okay.
Got it figured out. Awesome. So I'll end the meeting. I think it takes a little bit of time for the link to download, but I'll send it in the email to you guys tonight.
Cool. Perfect.
Well,
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thanks. Can we talk about who's gonna do the next meeting?
I don't think we have a meeting next week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the week.
Yeah, it's week 12. We don't meet with their group. We're
Oh,
on our own next week.
Yeah.
all right.
It's set up different.
Cool.
Yeah.
See you guys
All
in
right.
2 weeks.
See you later.
All right.
See you
Bye.
then.
Good.
Thanks. Bye.